Okay, so this is module 2B and characteristics of inspiring leaders. So there's 10 characteristics here. I've picked two people on the front here, as you can see, both rugby players, both young leaders, both a similar age. Kevin Sinfield, who used to play for Leeds Rhinos, has recently retired. Stuart Hooper, who was my captain at Leeds, who has also just recently retired, and I can guarantee that these two young men will go on to become great leaders in sport and in life. Well, they are already, but they will get even better. So, what qualities do these two have that I've seen in them, and that the other great leaders around the world have? I think when I go through these 10, obviously take it as an opportunity to self-reflect on your own qualities that sit against these 10 characteristics, and work out in your own mind how you can set about improving your ability to be a great leader using these criteria. So here we go. So the first thing, before I go through the 10, is to really get people to understand what leadership is about. And it's not actually about you at all. The whole premise of leadership is to make others better. And if your goal in life is to help people improve and build great teams, then I don't think you'll go far wrong. Certainly it's my big motivation, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's at the highest level or at school teaching level or wherever. It's just about trying to help people get better and improve, and that's what really gets me out of bed in the morning, hence why I'm doing this. And in order, obviously, to build that credibility, you've got to earn trust, and you earn trust by being effective in these 10 areas. Number 1, self-reliance. Accept responsibility and back personal judgments. You have the ability to make important decisions. So, again, I come back to the point about leadership, is that it's actually, you have to have a point of view, you have to have some level of assertiveness, and you have to have some confidence in your ability to communicate and make a decision. Managers are, for me, people who would organise week-to-week, month-to-month schedules and manage people, but they don't necessarily make decisions. And I think that's the fundamental difference between leadership and management. So leaders make decisions and they back their personal judgments, so self-reliance. Coupled with that, obviously, is self-confidence, the ability to maintain personal confidence, particularly when people, and as I've said this before, won't necessarily always agree with your decisions. But you've earned the right to your views, you've earned the right to your opinion, and you're an expert in the field, so therefore no one should be able to dent your personal confidence. Relationship skills comes up time and time again, the ability to connect and maintain many relationships at any point in time. So it's a bit like spinning plates, really, and making sure you've got all the plates spinning at one go, and as one plate begins to slow down and potentially fall, you go back to it, and you are proactive in maintaining those relationships. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time, but it's what the great leaders do. It's not networking, it's different to that. It's just building and maintaining many relationships. Optimism can see the bigger picture of where they're going and focus on the possibilities of what can be achieved. So rather than look at the downside of what will happen if it all goes wrong, or look at the negative side of things, the great leaders focus on what can be achieved and are always pint glass half full and always optimistic. And their innate optimism gets translated through to their people, and they can sense the optimism in them. Certainly, in my experience as a coach, players respond far more readily to a coach who paints a bright picture of the future rather than paints the one of doom and gloom. Critical in leadership is obviously knowing yourself and understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, understanding whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, understanding whether you are a detailed person, whether you're a directive person, whether you're an empowering person. And obviously the great leaders are a bit like chameleons in that they can change depending on the situation. So obviously, as I've grown, I'm late 40s now. I'm far more aware of my own personality, my own strengths and weaknesses. than I was when I was in my early 20s. And lots of ways we can go about identifying our own personality through. It could be personality profiles or 360-degree feedback, but also it's just self-reflection and recognizing how your emotions impact on others. Self-actualization. So this is the capacity to maintain personal energy and get that work-life balance. And I think, again, I've talked about in Module 1 about understanding how to plug energy leaks and renew your energy, your emotional energy. I think self-actualization is a real critical area that gets underestimated, and we ultimately burn ourselves out sometimes and become less effective as leaders. Excuse me. Assertiveness can express their feelings in a straightforward way whilst respecting that others might hold a different opinion. Comes back to the first point we made, and just reinforcing it, that you have to have a point of view. And if you are to deliver your point of view, you must do it in a non-confrontational but assertive way that allows people to understand what you stand for. So often, in a conversation, listen, I can understand where you're coming from, however, my position is this, and therefore this is my belief. And I think by being consistently honest with people, then people will respect you for that, and certainly listen to your opinion. Might not necessarily agree, but certainly listen to you and value your opinion. Within that, however, you have to have the flexibility to listen to other people's ideas as well as give your own, and be prepared to change your point of view should more evidence or a more persuasive argument take you in that direction. And again, some poor leaders I've worked alongside or seen or worked with will often dismiss other people's ideas without even giving them a chance to air them, really. And as a consequence, the people who follow feel not belittled, but don't feel valued. And as a consequence, they'll retreat back into their shell and not offer any opinions in the future, which is not what we want to achieve. Empathy is a really important quality, obviously, not just in seeing what others are thinking, but also having empathy and creating connections with others where perhaps they wouldn't expect it. There's nothing more powerful than reaching out to someone who wasn't expecting a call or an email, just to say, how are you getting on, anything I can do to help. Be good to catch up at some point, let's grab a coffee. And that going back to that situational sensing I mentioned in the last module, sensing mood in the camp, and that real unconscious ability to feel the emotion in a group and alter your behaviour accordingly as a leader. And finally, last but not least, and definitely not least, is self-control. They have the ability to manage their emotions well and restrain their actions until they have time to think. They can stay calm in stressful situations and maintain productivity without losing control. Certainly, my experience that I've been through, it is unbelievably difficult when you've got all sorts of forces pounding at you and decisions to be made and judgment being made on your ability, and people criticising, in a very aggressive, sometimes personal way. To step back and keep your control, not lose your temper, and have clarity of thought in those highly stressful moments. And I think people look for that in leaders, and you don't underestimate how many people will make a judgment on your ability as a leader in those specific moments. It's very difficult, but it's absolutely a key trait of being an inspiring leader. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Plenty to reflect on there. Have a think about how you stack up against those criteria, and I will look forward to speaking to you on the third part of this module, which is developing your credibility leader, which is a really important topic, and that I know you'll enjoy. Okay, cheers.